Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I'm your host, Dougie Almeida. It's Tuesday, or what the hell day is it? Wednesday? Oh, it's the middle of August, for God's sakes. And I am in Greenville, South Carolina, actually, Simpsonville. I don't know what's going on today. I'm just watching the news so much. I don't know if I want to tell the truth or just be bullshit. Um, I'm actually back from South Florida for a week in South Florida, back home in Simpsonville, South Carolina. And we're back. Great show today. Very funny comedian. And he's been on the show many times. And he's easily one of my best favorite guests on the show. And I always do this when I bring Mike on. I'm always like I'm trying to blow the guy or something. It's like, come on. Anyway, let's without further ado, let's bring my special guest today, Mr. Mike Kaplan. What's up, buddy?
Hey, happy to be back as always. Happy for you to be as uncomfortably attracted to me being on the show as you wish. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks, buddy. And it's not a physical thing; it's more of a metaphysical thing between us when we talk. I've never, whenever I speak to somebody, I've never had something like your interpretation skills, your ability to just decipher without clouding the mind with other things and voices that are just trying to throw you off. Usually you say something to you and you get it. It's not, you know what I mean? Don't you ever speak to people where you're like, you try to say something and you're like, you try to say this? I'm like, I don't even know where you got that from.
Well, that is very kind of you to say. I understand that you do not want to physically blow my body. You do want to blow my mind because of the ways in which I maybe blow your mind. So thank you. It's a,
Yeah.
a pleasure to be here. The thing that you said, where you essentially were asking me the question, you said, Mike, it seems like you get it. Have you ever talked to people who don't get it? And let me tell you this, Dougie, I get it.
Yeah, okay. Because it seems the ability to communicate nowadays, and we're comics. That's what we do. That our job isn't somehow to say some words with efficiency, and and paint a picture and make the majority of people kind of follow what it is we're trying to say, and it just seems that you have to, like, that's why my comedy lately, I'm more physical, I'm more, you know what I mean, I'll just sit there as a monologist sitting there, I'm trying to act it out so people don't get confused, with what I'm trying to say.
I appreciate that. I don't know that I think I'll say first. I also think that I do move around more on stage than I used to. I absolutely
Really?
started out just standing still behind the microphone, often wouldn't even take it out of the stand. Now, absolutely love a big stage, love to use the space, not in any like, sort of preordained or like predetermined way. Like I
Right.
haven't really mapped things out, officially. But it just, I remember, I was either at Montreal at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival, or read or saw when Colin Quinn was there at one point and did a keynote address, and I think he was basically talking to comedians, talking to younger comedians, talking to seems like directly to me from earlier in my career, and probably also I think he was said to himself earlier, perhaps all of us earlier, when in the beginning you're just trying to figure out what to say, like just do the like for me it was like math, like this plus this equals a laugh, hopefully, like like I felt like I was more asking jokes than telling jokes, which
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes all you have to do is tell it, and then if people are like, well, is this a joke, you're like, oh yes, this is a joke. But I
Mhm.
remember Colin Quinn gave the advice to you are on stage, you're not just a floating head, you're not you have a body, you have a physical reality all around you, so why not make use of all the tools that you have at your disposal, which do of course include the mic stand, the mic, and the capacity to stand there, but also all kinds of other opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I learned that lesson, I think, years ago, watching Rich Voss. Because Rich would be sitting on the stool and he'd tell a joke, people would be laughing, and he would just sit there and like look at the people on this side of the room, right? Laughter. And then as the laughter started to come a little down, he'd go, and he'd look at the other side of the room, and then they would start to laugh. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you have a face like this, Why not, why not use it, and a body, you know what I mean? It's been fun. And I think that's, somebody recently asked me, like, I'm in my 15th year. So someone recently asked me, like, what are some of the things that you've learned, like you've picked up, yeah, like, don't run the light, all that stuff. Everybody knows, but there's certain things you learn. And those are some of the biggest things is to put it all together. You know, it's the trumpet section, it's the bass. You know what I mean? We're trying to get everything orchestrated into a nice little melodic moment. You're
I
rubbing
love it.
off on
I
me,
love.
Mike. I just feel like I just spoke Mike Kaplan. I think I just spoke
I
Mike Kaplanese.
You really, uh, you really got me. I really like the idea that, first of all, of the whole body as, an orchestra or whatever, musical, a jazz band, however you like your music to come out. But I love that the trumpet section is right. I don't mean to toot your own horn, but you're great analogy there. Love that your chest is the trumpet.
Yeah, I feel like they're trumpets. I mean, you know what I mean? That's the problem. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Understand. I mean,
Uh,
but they could be tubas. They could be, there's a lot of
could be
possibilities for
worse.
you.
It could have been worse. I could have said kettle drums, you know,
Oh, sure.
um, kettle drum. What a boom, 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 kettle drums. Have you ever played any musical instruments?
I have, in fact. My parents, when I was growing up, were both music teachers, and so was my grandfather, and so my education included from age 4 violin lessons, and almost more in my home. I know that a lot of children were sort of made to go to, let's say, church or synagogue or mosque
Right.
or temple of whatever kind, and for me,
KKK rally.
exactly whatever the family was into. I don't really believe it, but my mom makes me go. And I did go to, like, to Hebrew school, and I did get a bar mitzvah, but in my family, music school was more a necessary obligation. In my
Right.
Like, I could have chosen to, if I threw a fit and didn't want to go to Hebrew school, that would have been fine. But I
Right.
was not allowed to not do music. I had every Saturday I would go to a school where I would play in an orchestra and take a master class, and there was a quartet that I was in, and a theory lessons. It was there all day, every
Hmm.
Saturday for most of my childhood. So I played the violin, and I did not like it for many years until I was in high school, and I started teaching myself guitar, and I found myself learning the guitar very easily because
Yeah.
of all the past
It's streaming.
decade of having that instrument forced upon me and the theory lessons and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started teaching myself guitar, playing guitar, writing guitar songs, and that's ultimately, some of the songs were funny, and that's what led me to find a comedy club to perform them at, and that's how I got into comedy.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I used to play guitar and trumpet growing up, and last time I actually uh, had a guitar in my hand, I hit somebody with it. But that's
Hmm.
another story. Yeah, yeah. There was a very discordant sound. But I was the guitar may have not been tuned well. Definitely wasn't after the fracas. It's interesting how you learn the theory of it, and you learn, like I played guitar as a young man, and then I played the trumpet, which was interesting. And it just what else are you going to do? And I never was always amazed in school in the band class the people that would choose to play the oboe, like these weird, like the trombone. You know what I mean? The trombone is a necessary aspect of a brass section. Excuse me, but who says I really want to,
Dougie, I'm going to say a couple things to you. They're going to be truthful and joking in various
Okay.
capacities. But number one is, my mother plays the trombone. How dare you? That's true.
Okay.
But also, your point is taken. And without the trombone, we wouldn't have Charlie Brown's parents' voices. Those were trombones.
Exactly.
But also, I understand. I mean, I think now the oboe sounds really cool, but I understand that at various points in my life and the lives of others, we all have sort of different associations with, like, what instruments are either cool or which ones are, along that spectrum, and so here's just a brief story that I hope will be analogous to what we're talking about. But either way, here I go. When I was a kid, my grandfather, who died when I was around 11, he had a lot of like he was very high tech for the ages. Like he had the first video recorder, like camcorder, that I'd ever like experienced, and he like set up he like even before VCRs really were widespread, he was like taping shows and like eliminating the commercials and like splicing them together.
Yeah.
And I remember he sat down with me once and we read a book together and recorded it, and the book was a choose your own adventure. You're familiar with choose your own adventures, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And it took place at the circus. And there was one part of the book that I remember hearing this, like listening back to the tape, and I heard an earlier version of me. I'm like, 7 or 8, listening back to when I was 5 or 6. And the question was, do you want to go learn how to be a lion tamer, or do you want to dress up in an ostrich suit and entertain the crowd like that at the circus? And I remember as I'm listening back to it, I'm like, of course you want to be a lion tamer. The lion tamer, that's the cool thing to do. That's
Yeah.
like
He
the
gets laid.
guitar. That's, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. As a 7-year-old, my priority number one. And
Well, I
I
had 3
remember
older
listening.
brothers, Mike, so I had 3 older brothers, so that's what I was thinking.
Understood. Makes a lot of sense. I was an only child, so I had no such frame of reference. But I thought that that would be cool to be a lion tamer. But then, as we listened to the tape, my 1 or 2 years younger self had chosen to dress up like an ostrich. So I'm like, even
Yeah.
within one's own lives, our priorities can change. A person who might have been like the oboe, why would I ever want the oboe? And eventually, you're
Yeah.
like oboe one canobo, and you're like a Jedi of music.
Yeah, and then you're writing exactly, you're being flown across the world so you can record like 15 minutes of music. I have a good friend, David Zaslav's in that business as well as doing comedy. Well, I guess the real instrument that would be a question would be like the tuba. You know what I mean? Like I had to strap my trumpet onto my bicycle when I'd go back and forth to middle school. But if you had a tuba, either you had to have a family member, like the tuba, you have to enroll more members of the family to dedicate to the tuba.
It's true. The tuba for the lone wolf is a very a challenging existence. Even also like, the double bass, the cello. There's some of these instruments that, I mean, one of the reasons that I say this jokingly, but also it does work well, that I started doing comedy more specifically than musical comedy, was I didn't have to bring the guitar everywhere. Even, a
Yeah,
guitar is pretty easy to travel with. And
yeah.
also even easier to travel with is nothing.
Exactly. Between two, you're exactly right because I sing and I play the guitar, and my friends have said, "Why don't you do parodies? Why, you write stuff and it's funny and you sing them sometimes." I'm like, but if you had a guitar, besides pissing off the act that's going to follow you, uh, you know, uh, beside that, I'm like, yeah, but I got to take it everywhere. It's bad enough I got to bring a merch suitcase everywhere I go. So I'm with you on that, but I'm gonna work harder on my actual act as opposed to relying on some sort of secondary prop, as we'll call it. Well, that's interesting. Always interesting, Mike. When we open up the story, see, that's what I'm saying. I didn't. None of this is written down on my outline, Ben. None of this, right? This is just coming straight from this, just the opening of the conversation, and here we are, about 15 minutes into the show. This is see,
Mm,
Mike. This is what I'm talking about. You know.
I understand.
Um, well, let me get to some of the topics here. I thought this was interesting, and that's what we do on the show. Some people say, "Why do you do news and then have a news story?" Because it's my show. I'll do whatever I find somewhat interesting. Like I was looking at stuff today. I wasn't going to do anything political with you, Mike. I'm not going to talk about Mar-a-Lago. I'm not going to talk about the new law that just got passed, electric car. Maybe electric cars. I would talk to you about. But the first thing that hit me when I was thinking, what am I going to talk with Mike Kaplan about? Was this quote, "What is the sluttiest thing a man can do?" End quote. And I figured no better person than to ask Mike Kaplan, who on this show has admitted that he's been in open relationships and believes in, free love and all this kind of shit. You know what I mean? Mike would not walk away from an orgy unless there were questionable characters involved, I'd imagine.
A fine point. I would say that, yeah, I'd want to know who was involved. But Yes, that is absolutely a part of my history. I believe that everyone should, know what, just try to discover what who you are and what you like and what you're interested in your own life and in a partnership or multiple partnerships, should that be what you choose. And there is a great book in the literature of open relationships called The Ethical Slut. So I would say that in a world in which a lot of people have sort of a monogamous centric view, because that's what uh, has been initially presented by by mainstream society, by fairy tales, by pop culture, by media. I mean, obviously today, so many
Thousands
more
of years of
options. Yeah.
tradition, but go ahead. Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, thousands of years of tradition. Look at your original Judeo-Christian situations. They involved, like, in fact, Judaism and Islam came from two
Oh yeah.
children of Abraham by different women. Concubines were normalized. It
Mhm.
was back in a time when women were property owned by men, and men could own many women. So if you're
Yes.
talking about thousands of years of tradition, you're actually talking about a couple decades of tradition.
Yeah, like as we call it, the good old days, Mike. You know, I get it. Yeah, but back then they didn't have makeup, and so if you had to find, if you had to search the world for a concubine, it was probably hard. It's like trying to find a hot woman in the middle of Wichita. Um,
Hmm.
but this is, I mean, nothing against the women in Wichita, nothing against them. I mean, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I mean, Wichita is
I
one of
actually,
those states.
yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I don't actually know that I've ever been to Wichita, so I have no specific knowledge, no direct knowledge of the circumstances.
You have never been to Wichita, Mike? Ugh, world
I'm not
traveler
sure if
I
I
am.
have. I know my girlfriend's family, my girlfriend's mom and siblings live in Kansas City, Missouri, and I know that I visited them a lot. And so I've been to
Hmm.
Kansas City, Kansas as well, and I've been to Lawrence, Kansas, and I've been a few other places, Overland, Kansas, a lot of the Kansas parts that are close to Missouri.
So you've been to
Wichita,
Kansas.
I've absolutely been to Kansas.
You covered Kansas.
Oh yeah, I've covered at least the eastern sliver of Kansas for sure.
Okay.
And I think I performed at a college somewhere right in the middle of it at one point.
Hmm.
And fond memories.
Yeah.
Big fan. And I bet you can find. And also, I mean, when we're talking about beauty standards, conventional beauty standards, like we all don't find the same exact person or type of person attractive as well. There could be people there's probably some wonderful orgies in Wichita happening right now.
Yes, I would imagine. But that's what I'm saying. Everybody's at a certain level, uh, and that's not that's an orgy that hopefully nobody has a camera. But here's some things. The Twitter is joking about what is the sluttiest thing a man can do, and people were like,
Sure.
leave it open. Some of the comments, the sluttiest thing a man could do is have a big nose. I mean, I guess
I'm not sure I
I'm
understand
assuming.
that one. Yeah.
Well, I'm guessing he has a big nose. I would hope. The sluttiest thing a man could do is the first sluttiest thing a man could do is be sweet and put in effort.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's an interesting thing because I only saw this sort of trending topic when you shared it with me in the show outline. I always appreciate how organized you are here
Yeah.
on the show, and I appreciate your willingness to allow me to let's say transcend the outline at times to put a little chaos in with the order. But it does seem like most of those examples that I looked at, they are from like the sex positive definition of of sluttiness. And I mean, I feel like even it sort of transcended sluttiness itself in that most of the examples given were like, I mean, if the question is, what is it that a man can do that uh, that in which he engages with sleeping with as many people as he wishes. I guess one here's my answer. I've determined it. I
Yes.
think the program was running underneath the whole time.
Yep.
Probably the sluttiest thing that a man can do is be gay.
Well, yeah, I think so because that's really thinking of yourself. It really is truly thinking of yourself.
And just on the basic level of there's many different individuals to which like this generalization will not apply, and there are many sociological reasons for why, but in general, gay men uh, historically have had more sex like per gay man than
Yeah.
like almost any other group of gender and sexuality. I was going to say combined, but that won't really make sense. But because men, I listen to Dan Savage's podcast a lot. I've probably brought it up on your podcast. Dan will sometimes say that straight men would have as much sex as gay men would, but they can't because straight women won't. And there are many reasons for why that. But when it
Right.
is man and men, when you're a man looking for men to have sex with, there's a lot of men
There's
that will
plenty.
want to have
Yeah.
sex, a lot of men who
Yeah.
will want to be slutty with you. And as such, I think the sluttiest thing a man can do, if you want to be a slutty man, be at least
Yeah.
gay, bi, pan, or flexible.
Yeah, I think Mike said it best. So, if you're going to be slutty, you have to really go all out. And you're right. You're right because scientifically, heterosexual a man and a woman, how much sex are you having if you're that? Well, you really have to find a partner who's willing, like you're saying, and a lot of times women are judging you number one, you know, if they're going to have sex. Two, if they want to have sex. B, if they want to get all this shit's going on. If two women want to have sex, they're one of those, if not both, are dealing with the same issues. So, maybe they're going to be a little more particular about who they have sex with because a lot more emotion. But when it comes to two guys, fuck away. And, it's like, you could, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think the last time I was in a gay bar, which was about 2 days ago, I was in Wilton Manors and we did a show there. And after the show, the room was sexually nothing like not like any club you ever been in. Like everybody's mounted on somebody, everybody's making out, everybody's dry humping. I'm like, oh my god, I got to get out of here before I partake. So if I get caught up in the action, but you're right. I think you're right. It's that is a great call, and I think we nailed it because some of these other ones are no, no. Actually, the sluttiest thing a man could do is be a barista. Eh,
Hmm,
I think Mike, yours is definitely overweighting that one. The sluttiest thing a
I
man could do
appreciate
is make his soul air and immediately die from heart disease. Well,
it. Hmm,
she's being selfish. The sluttiest thing a man could do is be four men from New Jersey. Okay.
hmm.
See, so we got it best here. So the sluttiest thing a man can do is be gay. That's it. And ladies, don't keep pushing us to that. Just saying.
I mean, ladies, do whatever you like. But it
Yes.
seems
I mean,
like,
who am I to?
I mean, yeah, Dougie, you're just a guy who's nervous to be at an all male orgy because you might, if you stay too long, participate.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Because sometimes I'm a guy who I'm not a watcher. I'm a
You don't
participant.
want to be
Like I get
rude.
involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm
yeah.
not going to sit by and I got to either be
Offers
take part
you
or get the hell out.
some hors d'oeuvres, some finger foods. You're like, well,
Yeah.
it would be kind of uh, a rude thing to the host to just continually turn things down. So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, if there was food there, I would have probably stayed a little bit longer. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. All right. I came across this story. Again, the same thing. Mike Kaplan's here today. Why do so many comedians' lives end in tragedy? A lot of people ask that. The so many people have committed suicide. Not even part of this article, but like Richard Jenny, Robin Williams. Um,
Oh yeah. Also, would you put up that photo one more time? Is that possible? I just want to. So we've got, of course, Richard Pryor. I love this Mount Rushmore of comedians' lives ending in tragedy. Just for if you're only listening and not looking, we've got Richard Pryor, absolutely. Chris
yes.
Farley, maybe the classic comedian ending in tragedy, like Dustin Diamond,
What?
the artist formerly known as Screech, and
Yes.
Roseanne, who is not
Oh,
yet dead, but her life has been assessed to by this photo array. It
yeah.
has ended her life is ending in tragedy as we speak. I mean, the question. is raised in as a headline in sort of a titillating way, as headlines often are, like where the issue of like mental health in comedy and life also beyond comedy, like it's a good question. I actually don't know numbers wise if do comedians deal with depression and anxiety on a higher at a higher rate than the rest of
Hmm.
the population, or is it more the idea that comedians themselves are more likely to, if suffering from those things, be talking about them because that is the job, that is the
Right.
task, the path of a comedian is to talk about what the comedian is experiencing, which often, I mean, there's so many wonderful comedians like Maria Bamford and Aparna Nancherla who talk about their struggles with mental health, with mental illness, and in some ways, I think, might even thus be healthier than people who are experiencing the same things and are not talking about them. So, like, I mean, there's many variables here. And I think another element is, of course, that when there is like when a life ends in tragedy, if there's a drunk driving accident, a Sam Kinison kind of situation, or a
Mm.
Chris Farley or a Richard Jenny, of course, like these are things that like stick out, they leap out, they spike up in our experience. And also, look at all the comedians that have ever been. Look at the ones that did, if they,
Yeah.
make it to 90. Like, I think Don Rickles just died at 90. Jerry Lewis lived a long time. Phyllis Diller was an old woman.
Yeah.
Like Betty White, not a stand up, but, a
Yeah.
comedy related person. And plus, look at all the comedians that are still alive, still living, still working,
Yeah.
still thriving. But like numerically, I think there are more comedians alive than dead.
Yeah. I think I agree with you on that stat. I don't think we have to, quantify it or prove it, but
Oh
I
no,
agree with that. And if you're right, if you look at it, I guess as a percentage of the populace, I guess dentistry probably still has the highest suicide rate, right? In comparison, if we compare the profession.
the psychology field is also
Oh
particularly
yeah.
fraught. Like
Oh
if we
yeah.
if we look at these numbers, there's like, of course, like the world is a challenging place to be alive in and a part of, and I mean, it's good actually. At least, I mean, psychology is a relatively, newer field, a newer science, at least in its more modern forms. Some say that the Buddha was actually one of the first psychotherapy practitioners, a couple thousand years ago, and that Buddhism
Hmm.
itself is sort of like a self-diagnosis process of, using one's mind to look into one's mind. But it's nice that there are more tools today that people have available, like talk therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy. But yeah, definitely, there are some people, your Greg Giraldos, your uh, and such who are. Yeah, there is, I guess, the question. If you're asking the question, why do so many comedians' lives end in tragedy? I mean, the short answer that I almost never give is I don't know, but it does seem like that we're all doing our best, with the
Yeah.
tools we've been given, and we're working on it.
Yeah. I think you nailed it with the number thing. I think it's no more than I think there's other professions that are on the number. Why are so number, um, as opposed to why, and when I think of the why, I look at that. Why is it happening? Whether the number is astronomical or is just the fact that it's happening, and I relate to that as a comic because, I really, the theory of Pandora's box. I have a lot of life experiences in this because I've always been the kind of person who wanted to go try something as much as I could. If I played sports, I tried to be the best at it. Martial art, you know what I mean? So I always tried to get it, so that like in sex, it's like, so the first time you're in a threesome, wow, of course you come in 30 seconds, you spoil the date, but that's the first time. And
Of
then you get used,
course, yeah.
yeah, then you get used to it. And, and after a few years of that, and you have that kind of lifestyle and blah, 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 and you do this and there's more crazy, crazy. Where do you go from there? The idea of Pandora's box is you get to experience all these great pleasures. And like as a comic, there's no better high to me than watching hundreds of people smiling and or laughing their asses off to the things you're saying, right? I mean, that's why we do it, Mike. I mean, when you think about it, that's the drug. I mean, when you're up there and even when you make up something and it, on the spot, you improv and boom, people start dying laughing. You couldn't inject enough heroin into your body to be the same. Am I right?
Well, I've never injected any heroin into my body, so on that particular, I take your point in spirit, absolutely. I mean, to me, also, I the audience reaction is absolutely one enjoyable aspect of the comedic experience, but I feel like it's also like, to me, my output, my input, my in and output is also equally, if not more relevant, like that I get to, plan something and or unplan something, to think of something either in advance or on the spot, to be the one, who is talking then
Mm,
or like right now, for example. And I feel like it's almost like, what do you like better, like getting to say the thing or getting to hear the audience laugh at the thing? There's sort of like two sides of the same coin, the yin and the yang. And be like, what do you like better, like inhaling or exhaling? Like, oh man,
mm,
I love a good inhale because it lets me exhale as much as I want while I'm talking. But then, man,
mhm.
after I get to the end of a big exhale where I'm talking as much as I am right now, oh boy, that's good. I
Yeah,
really like
yeah.
I like the in and out, the back and forth.
Yeah, I like both, especially when the yin yang principle definitely comes into play when it comes to breathing in and breathing out. Because if it wasn't for that, there would be no theory on it. But you're right. Yeah, I just that's the thing. People always ask me. I think it's that you go from these high emotions, and it's a crazy business. Everybody. I was having a conversation with a comic who's recently making it big, and he was explaining to me like friends think, oh, you must be this, you must be that. I'm like. He's like, no, man, the bar just got raised. I gotta scramble harder. I gotta work harder. I gotta even be more creative. It's like a music, like a band. We go back to music, but it's like a band that puts out a great album. Well, what's the next album? What's the next? What kind of product are you putting out? That's why I think that rat race sometimes appeals to that, and we go crazy. Mike, are you
Sure.
concerned? Are you concerned that there's 87,000 new IRS agents being put in the system?
I guess the question, I didn't know that there were this many IRS agents being put in the system, but I'll tell you why I am happy about it. Number one is that I pay my taxes. And in fact, this year, I have paid more than I needed to and am waiting for a refund. And if
Ah,
there's more people working at the IRS might mean that I get my refund faster than if there are fewer people working at the IRS. So I hope that the majority of those 87,000 are there to verify that my documentation is accurate and that I should
yeah.
get back the money that I and my accountant have determined that I would. Additionally, my understanding is that of all most of the audits that are done on people with lower amounts of money, in part because people who have massive amounts of money are able to afford lawyers and business managers
Mhm.
and to legally work the system and find these loopholes, to the point that if they like the IRS does not have the person power in order, the manpower, the woman power. They don't have the workers and the skills necessary to do their job efficiently and appropriately. To like, surely there we can agree that the more money you have, the more capacity you have to figure out ways to hold on to your money more, to hide it legally in places, or to
Mhm.
whatever it is. And that there are certainly, let's say that they're spread evenly throughout all of let spread throughout the different classes, spread throughout the different people who have different amounts of money, like people who are liars or more likely to try and hide their wrongdoings, compared to, like, open-minded, open, just completely thorough, like I am, like open book people. There are It would be more useful to be able to audit the people at the higher levels, because utilitarian wise we'll be able to then, if there's somebody stealing billions of dollars compared to somebody stealing thousands of dollars.
Mm, mm.
So I hope that these IRS agents are all being hired and trained to go after the people who have way more money than
Well,
I, though perhaps I am a glass half full kind of
unfortunately, this is one of those moments where I'm honored to say that, Mike, you don't know what you don't know. And
Absolutely,
No,
I don't.
here's what's going to happen. The billionaires, like you're saying, and you made this point. A lot of these people that have a lot of money also have the not just a person from H&R Block. They actually have a JD, a Juris Doctorate, who is a person who has a law degree in tax planning and tax advice. So they take care of everything. The corporation, everything's set up. It's a machine. It's like, and the IRS doesn't want to spend millions, if not billions, fighting legally over such discrepancies, as we'd put it. So the bulk of the people that are going to be hit by these 87,000 new agents, but by the way, by perspective, there's about 70,000 currently working at the IRS. So it's more than
Mm.
doubling the actual size. Also, these people are being armed and being buying ammunition. Many aspects of the government are also lining up bullets and ammo, from all these different departments. The IRS agent needs guns, and that's where they armed. So they're going to go after small business owners, people that have corporations. A comedian like me, I have a corporation. I bring in revenue as a corporation, so there's deductions, and they're going to we're going to come and waste your time because you're not going to spend $1,000 to hire an attorney to fight it. You can fuck. I got to pay it, or I got to pull every receipt out of my ass. And okay, good. Make sure you eat all that shit. So yeah, that's going to be the actual target. So beware, everybody. Be prepared, and you know, like Mike said, in all honesty, as a licensed fiduciary, as long as you're doing it, you're up and up. You know, you can't be writing off shit you don't have. You know, that just causes all the problems. Did you know?
Also, just quick thing. I know you said you don't want to get too political today, but I did just, because I hadn't heard this story, just did a brief Googling of IRS guns and found on PolitiFact, apparently it was Matt Gaetz who said on Tucker Carlson that the government is arming the IRS because Joe Biden is raising taxes and disarming Americans. And this article just makes the point that Biden is not arming up the IRS with guns and ammunition. So
Well,
I just wanted
the
to.
precedent the precedent on that argument is not arming; they are armed. In other words, even the job descriptions of the new employees, well, you'll be armed, you'll be expected to inflict and have the go after people who are wrongdoing. So it's interesting.
And
It's
my understanding, it seems to be that the IRS does purchase guns and ammunition for special agents in its criminal investigation division, which is a law enforcement branch.
right. With the criminal is usually when the people they find out, or maybe that's when it starts with the audit, and then they go after the criminal. So
Oh, it
either way,
actually
if you're
says
going
the
to,
typical IRS auditor that Americans would encounter in a routine audit are unarmed. So
yeah,
I
those
don't
are
think
yeah.
people have to worry about it.
Yeah, because that's the nose. That's the sniffer. The sniffer comes. They do the audit. They sniff, and then if there's something wrong, that's when the next escalation goes into, and that's the escalation is the main word.
Oh, it
Speaking
actually
of
says the
escalation,
IRS. One more de-escalation. Apparently, the IRS did spend about $725,000 on ammunition this year, but that is not unusual and actually is a bit less than what was spent in other recent years. And this is not new or unique to the Biden administration. They've been made
yeah.
for an IRS division that's been armed for more than a century.
Well, even as something I even said about the last Bush, when they were talking about trying to raise taxes, what Bush did was actually increase the size of the IRS. So increasing the size of the agency is not necessarily a bad thing. To talk about how much ammo is purchased on something that's really not using that much ammo is like statistically variant. If I choose the date and I pick the year, it's just an ebb and flow kind of number anyway. So it's not the point. What's not been taken into place is what the guns and ammo are being purchased for the 87,000 people yet. That number has not yet been determined. But when you double your size, you will increase. That increase may not mean anything, but the important thing is there'll be a lot more armed people to enforce the rules of the IRS and collect. All right. So Salman Rushdie, he's a writer. When we have freedom of speech, I think an aspect of that is a very important story to me. But he got attacked in New York, in your hometown. They finally caught up, and poor guy's not doing well. I mean, this guy was. I mean, can you imagine telling a joke and then having the Ayatollah of Iran after you, Mike Kaplan, because you told a joke about a world leader? I mean, would you?
Oh, yeah, I would not want that to happen. I don't want anyone to be attacked physically.
It's nuts. Um, this guy. I mean, it was years ago that they had the Satanic Verses book came out, and they were supposedly after me. Like, they're not. The Iranians aren't very good at chasing down people. And then after we, droned the general over there, and now they've been threatening Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and even supposedly Trump. So,
Oh yeah,
we'll see what
I'm
happens.
anti death threats, anti violence, anti people attacking people regardless of what they're saying. I absolutely am for people saying what they believe and what they want, and if other people disagree, to use words as well. Also, I don't know if you said it was in New York City, it was New York State where it happened. Not it was
Oh yeah,
actually pretty, like, maybe 6 7 hours from where I live.
you're right. So
Closer
I
to
stand
Ohio,
corrected.
in fact. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. When you think about it, it's amazing when people go to different parts of New York, they don't realize. Well, it's like Florida, right? Florida, you could be in the Keys, you could be in, in Tallahassee. I mean,
Oh yeah.
any number of different places. All right. So let's lighten things up here before we go much further. A couple things. First of all,
Of course.
have you ever seen a bear hopped up on like this? This is funny. I
Just in
mean,
the video that you sent me earlier, I'm very happy to
look at this
see animals getting into psychedelics.
Look at him. I mean, look at him there. It looks like a fake bear. I mean, he looks like he's a. Look at him. I'm fucked up, man.
Oh yeah.
Ah, the poor guy. Look at him.
Yeah, I hope he's doing okay.
So fucking crazy. You know. I mean, you look at those. You think about animals and humans. I mean, we all act the same when we're all messed up on that kind of shit. I mean,
We
he looked
should.
like
I
a
mean,
few of my
we are animals.
he looked like
Absolutely.
a few of my friends, like after in college, who got really wasted in the back seat. I mean, they looked like, hey, that was my friend George. That's very funny. And before we close it's time for the news. One last thing. I always love when I see something. Oh, I never knew that. I don't know. I believe in the philosophy. I don't know what I don't know. Yeah, that's what made Socrates the smartest person on earth, because he claimed to not know anything. He's like, I don't know shit. And so I love that philosophy of I don't know what I don't know. But did you know what a knocker upper was?
I had heard about this earlier this year. So I went 40 something years without knowing what a knocker upper was. But my understanding is that they were previously, they're basically like the people whose job was stolen by the alarm clock.
Yeah, the knocker uppers were the original toll gate placer collectors, right? Toll gatherers, VCR repairmen, as we'd say, those who have fallen by technology. These are people in the the early times of England, before the alarm clocks. Go into these industrial towns where everybody had to get up. Everybody worked at the same plant. Everybody working. This guy would walk with a stick or some sort of peas and throwing rocks and shit. Wake up, fuckers! Get to work, fucker. Come on, you wankers, get up. I think it's something like that. Probably. I don't know. I'm
That's a
maybe
good
bored.
impression.
Yeah, I could have been.
I
I mean, you're.
If I wasn't looking right at you, I don't know that I would have thought I was transported back into jolly old England.
Come on, Michael. Get out
It
of
was
your
good.
bed, Michael. It's time to come and shake the sheets, Michael. Get out of there. Stop writing that book. Stop playing the fucking violin. Nobody likes the
Oh
violin,
yeah.
Michael.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I had to get to work.
But that's what they did. They went up and woke up everybody, the knocker uppers. So there you go. All right. Without further ado, it's time for the news as a joke. This is where we take headlines and try to extrapolate as much funny out of it as we can. This story is just great because of it. And again, when I think of Mike Kaplan, I think of funny, well thought, well written, and a sexual guy. You're a sexual guy. You're expressively. I mean, you're just like you said, whatever, freaky deaky, whatever. And but the royal rumor might be inspiring straight men to get pegged, and that's beautiful. There's a royal rumor spreading around England about a particular royal who likes to be pegged. Now, Michael, maybe some of our watchers, listeners, don't know what pegging or being pegged is, but I think you can apply a proper
Happy
definition.
to provide. In fact, I previously already brought up Dan Savage of the Savage Love Cast and the column Savage Love, a sex, relationship, and otherwise advice column. Dan Savage was the person who, in his column, along with his fans, coined the term pegging, which initially was a reference to an act in which usually a heterosexual woman would have anal sex with a strap on, and the recipient was a heterosexual man. So
Hmm.
I mean, these days, of course, people of all genders and orientations can engage in whatever sexual acts they wish, including pegging. But yeah, I think it's become more and more mainstream. It was obviously referenced on I saw it on Broad City and sort of in other pop culture. Clearly now
Yeah.
in some mainstream news sources. So I think that for the people who are being inspired by it, for people, I feel like there's probably people who haven't heard of the thing, haven't heard the word, haven't heard of the concept, and if it's something that they're like, well, now that I know that this is a thing with a name that can be done, and if you're, it's the kind of thing that you might be like, well, I don't think anyone is being pressured into it. I think if
Yeah.
people are discovering things about themselves, and that is beautiful. I agree with you.
I don't think there's a man on earth, whether he's heterosexual or gay or whatever, hasn't thought about shoving something up his ass. There's a lot of people that do weird things with Coke bottles and these frozen eels and all kinds of things like that. And as we said in the previous show, as a man, if you are going to shove something up your ass and you're by yourself, put a string on it. Have like don't because you want to be able to. There has to be an exit strategy. Let's say the least. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is the pegging. The thing about pegging, it's like, it's not an attract like it. Okay, so people have that thought and they think, but the word. I mean, if the guy coined the phrase, I mean, pegging is like, oh, it almost like, it doesn't sound comfortable. You know what I mean? Being pegged. I
Oh,
mean, I'd imagine it
sure.
does. It's not punk. I don't think it is comfortable from what it turns out to be. I don't think it's very comfortable if you're
Well,
like,
I mean, I think yeah, I don't know if comfort is the specific goal of the act, but I would say that the name to me evokes more of, the idea of like a square peg in a square hole, a round peg in a round hole. A peg
mm,
goes in a hole, so to put a peg in a hole is pegging. And yeah, I think I'll also add on top of the, or maybe instead of the, in addition to the string theory that you're
yes,
presenting, string theory, very, very complex, of course. Uh, a lot of butt plugs do come with a belled end, kind of like bell bottoms,
yeah,
so that's something that will absolutely prevent it from getting lost. So whenever
yeah,
you're showing up for pegging, just be there with bells on. That's what I'm saying.
yes. Have the bell, and don't do it with an amateur. Like, don't have the person pegging and the person being pegged be the first time any of you've dealt with pegging. Right. Somebody in the
Oh
room
yeah,
has
or
to
at
be a
least yeah.
professional. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You can't have two amateurs, trying
I understand what you're saying, and I think that if you do have two people who have not experienced this before, like definitely, it's possible. I'd say that if that's the case, to be honest about your experience level, and then do as much research and just move slow. I feel like slow and
Yeah.
steady
Yeah.
is the
When it
most
comes to that,
comfortable.
yeah, when it
Yeah,
comes to that,
in a
usually
lot of
being
ways.
despacio.
Yeah.
In Spanish, it's called despacio. Take your time.
Ah,
Don't be a fucking hero.
I like it.
Exactly. Boy, there was something else I was going to add to that, but it's too late. I forgot. My mind is erased. All right. Well, this being said, this may just be in England, but our next story, um, lot of ass play going on in today's show. Um,
Oh, sure.
uh, rise in popularity of anal sex has led to health problems for women. He keeps asking me to have me put it in my bum. I said, "Want to put it in my bum,
Well,
but I
I
have."
think I feel like there's a pretty simple number one. First, anyone like make sure that you take care of your physical, medical well-being and health needs. And hopefully, I think in the article that you shared, it said that sometimes like because of perhaps the shame or the stigma associated with sort of just a sex negative culture that exists probably in England, maybe not the same way it does in America, but there are sometimes people are afraid to talk to their doctor about sexual things. Sometimes there are doctors that might be on the shaming end of the spectrum when it comes to these things, so you want to
Yeah.
have a doctor that you can trust when you have a medical issue, even one that might feel embarrassing. And this is more TED Talk than joke segment, but I will say this, that here is my sincere and joking offering for if it seems that, like, because this article is saying that it seems that women are the ones who are having an elevated level of health challenges pertaining to
Mm.
this. So I'm imagining it's heterosexual women partnered with heterosexual men, perhaps. I mean, that's the by and large, so to speak, most of the population, as far as we know, is heterosexual, and this will be speaking to that community specifically, and from among it, I'm one of you. Women, heterosexual women, I would offer that if your male partner wants to have anal sex with you on the receiving end, why not? Look, we're in the 21st century, the world of egalitarianism. Why not have an equilibrium in which you can make it a necessary ingredient to make it so that, look, he has to at least experience something like what he's
Yeah,
asking you to experience to
yeah.
understand, and then I think that would be potentially healthier for everyone.
I think it's a great idea, Mike. You scratch my back and I peg you. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there'll be a lot more. There'll be a lot more love in the world. Um, to say so. And you're right.
It's
I
good to
mean,
be able to, experience,
because
to
it's
imagine what someone else is experiencing, or even if you go beyond imagining it, experience what someone else is experiencing, but at least start with imagining it.
yeah, because the idea is, everybody kept saying follow the science. We lived in a pandemic area where everybody's follow the science. Well, when it comes to ass play, you got to follow the science. And what this article is telling us is that the man has a much better ability of taking it in the ass. Like, in other words, they have a stronger rectum area, and all kinds of things. They were into it. You got to read the article, but basically, they are more less susceptible to the complications. So therefore, the man is the one who should be taking it, as they'd say, in the ass. Um,
Because
well,
I like where you've come to. Because the man is strong, the man should be on the receiving end of
yeah,
the challenging pounding.
that's right.
Yeah.
You said it best. If the woman's got to do it, like, hey, listen, if we got divorced, you get half my shit. So if this is what we're gonna do, then you got to,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
I mean, if feminism tells us that a woman can do anything that a man can do, and the anti feminist man is like, well, then a man should be able to do anything that a man should be able to experience anything that a woman experiences. And so, put your money where your butt is.
that's right, exactly. That's no better way to leave that one. TikTokers are using vaping, wearing their vaginal juices as perfume to activate their natural attraction. Scientists say that this makes no sense. You ever walked up to a woman and go, "Oh my God, she smells like crotch. I'm gonna go. I got to talk to her."
Yeah, this article I had never heard of. I'd never heard this word before. Now I can't unknow it. I Here's the thing. My girlfriend is very big in the fragrance world. In the fragrance community, she collects many perfumes, colognes, other, fragrant items, and she's educated me a lot about it. And so
Mm.
when I first read the headline, I was like, "Have you heard of this?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she said, "I wanted to protect you from it." And so now here I am. I have all the information. I feel like the most telling part of that article, though, uh, for the scientist who said there's no evidence that this would be something that should be attractive to people. It's not something that has been scientifically confirmed. However, they did say, and my girlfriend also raised this point without reading the article, that the placebo effect is very powerful. So if
Hmm.
if a person dabs themselves with whatever, regardless of whether it will have an empirical effect on another being, if you're confident because you're doing it, yeah, oh yeah, they should try. My girlfriend off to the side says they should try perfume. If
just go.
if you
Just
think
go to
that
the
your
perfume
vaginal
counter.
juices will do it, yeah, yeah. Why not try something that's formulated to officially, historically smell good? But yes, the placebo effect is very powerful. So if somebody feels confident because they dab their own juices on themselves, it might in fact seem to have the scientific effect that does not specifically exist other than placebo-wise.
Well, I agree on the placebo aspect because basically it's a recognizable thing. It's the scent brings you to the moment and makes you think of that. You know what I mean? But the problem is not all these scents of the moment are attractive. Like, so you like you said, it has to do with the confidence. So, I mean, listen, I'm glad you I mean, listen, not all women are made alike, just like not all men are made alike. And, some women when the oven's open, I just want to use oven. What I'm trying to say, when the bouquet is shared, when sometimes it's not always flowers. Sometimes, listen, I've walked away from some that have been, so you want to be like, you want to have confidence. If you're going to swab that, you're going to reach down and swab that and put it around your neck. You better make sure, put somebody in a Pavlovian moment where they're either going to drool or run away. I agree 100% to that. Yeah, I agree. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Um,
look at that.
I
We're in the section
yeah,
where we agree, and I always love it.
yeah, you know what I mean? Vaping, like, you have to be confident in what you're doing. You have to be confident in what you're doing. And you're right. Why go through all the problem when you could just go to the perfume counter at the mall, you know, and just get some Avon, just get, you know, I mean, do you have a particular cologne you wear, Mike, when you want to smell good? You don't rub your ball sweat on your neck, do you? I mean, you don't want to do that type of thing.
That's a great question. The answer, of course, yes. You are right. I do not do that. I do have, so before I met my girlfriend, I did not ever wear cologne. And these days, I don't wear it all the time, but she has from her collection, which includes, there are certainly some colognes and some perfumes that are seemingly presented as for one or another gender, but in fact, like over historical, shifts, it is like the things that once were masculine might be thought of as feminine now, and vice versa. But so she has some scents that were meant for men theoretically that she likes for herself, but then she has some that she's like, I think this one would be good on you. There's one that I like in particular called Burning Barbershop. Uh,
Hmm.
and there's, I forget what it's by, who is it? DS and Durka. And so that's the one that I resonate with the most. I really like smokiness, a smoky smell, a smoky
Oh, wow.
flavor. Like I like a barbecue chip, I like a
Yeah.
barbecue
I
tofu.
love barbecue.
I
Yeah.
like a barbecue perfume. So it's like it really does sort of smell like a barbershop is on fire. Burning Barbershop by DS and Durka.
Wow. What was the name of it again? Burning Barbershop.
Burning Barbershop.
Wow. It sounds like a rap album, from
Absolutely.
from
Here, we've got
Grandmaster T.
a visual aid for us. This is the bottle
Oh,
right
that's
there.
cool. And that's a woman's
The
perfume,
new
you
bottles
say?
look different, apparently, but this one
It's a
is
it's a
beautiful. It
unisex
smells great.
it's a unisex
I think,
perfume or cologne?
is it unisex or is it meant for men theoretically? I
She's
mean,
just gonna tell
anyone
you
can
it's
use it.
unisex, so you keep wearing it. She's just gonna tell
It
you,
is a little more,
"Yeah, it's fine."
masculine, she says. Yeah, like a
Oh, yeah,
barber
'cause
shop. It's not a salon. It's not the
yeah,
beauty parlor, which is what my mom and grandmother
yeah.
would say they would go to.
I'll be 100% honest to you. One time we were at the Epcot, Food and Wine Festival, and we were in Italy. And I bought a bottle of Salvatore Ferragamo, which I sprayed it when I was there. And I'm like, oh, it smells great. And I bought it and I was wearing it for a few weeks until my wife realized and found out that it's a woman's perfume. So,
I mean, truly, the fact that you enjoyed it, like, there is nothing inherently or innately one gender or another about a scent. So,
yeah,
what was it, Ferragamo? You say
yes, Salvatore Ferragamo. Oddly enough, I mean,
Salvatore Ferragamo.
yeah,
Mm.
and I
My girlfriend
wore
says
it.
that's a brand that they make a bunch, but understood the one that he had was apparently a woman's scent. That, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, I thought it was great, and I mean, that was oddly enough, that was the first time I was ever pegged by another guy, but that's a different story.
Ah, well,
Any rate, trying to
if I
call
may
back.
briefly, oh yeah, that was very good. I like it. I'm sorry to steamroll and interrupt, but you just reminded me of an experience I had with my dad when I was a child. I've thought about a lot recently, actually. That when I was in like maybe second, third grade, MC Hammer came out with "You Can't Touch This," and I
Hmm.
loved it. And I since then, as an adult, as a later an older child, like I was big into hip hop, love rhyming, love like the beauty, like it's like they're poets, you know.
Right.
Amazing hip hop is fantastic, but when that song came out, I liked it, and I told my dad, and I said I really like this song, and he said, "No, you don't." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I don't. I didn't realize. I mean,
Yeah.
because he didn't, because it wasn't his thing, and he saw me as, you know, at the time, you know, a little him or an extension of him. So it made
Yeah.
sense that he's like, this is the way that I feel. So it's hard to imagine
Yeah.
how you feel. And so I feel like you should go get that perfume again. Get back to Epcot. Get that
Yeah.
perfume and wear it as much as you want.
Oh my God, you're right. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get that and wear it and have to turn down all those guys. God, guys, I'm heterosexual. I just like the cologne. It's perfume.
it, it
Um,
could be.
there you go. You're right. I think you're right. Go with my the original instinct, Mike. You know what I mean? Um,
Oh yeah.
next story: Lancaston thief who scooped coins from a monkey enclosure pond now at risk of having herpes.
And I looked this up. I hadn't heard about this, that there is a this particular herpes is not deadly to the monkeys, but it is deadly potentially to humans. Whereas, of course, the herpes that humans standardly get, that, you know, one
Yeah.
out of five, I think, one out of four or five have, which is not fatal, not lethal. It's
Yes.
fascinating to know that there is a monkey herpes, which, so be careful when you get water out of a monkey's butt place, I guess.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, herpes. I hope I don't catch that again. Um, you're right.
Hmm.
Here's, I want to know. I looked through the article and it didn't say. I don't know if it said how much money he stole. I guess they didn't know because nobody had an accounting aspect of money that was thrown into the well. But you know, he got away. I was just wondering now. This person's sitting there and they don't know who he is. They don't know who the person is. And I say he. It could be a them. So. They are standing around going looking for like postulates and in all kinds of nonsense, you know. But at least, hey, at least they got about 98 cents or 100
Oh
or
yeah.
100
Well,
pounds of euros.
the good news for the rest of us, apparently, only I'm looking at the CDC's website for herpes B virus. Only one case
Yes.
has been documented of an infected person spreading this virus to another. It's usually that you get bitten or scratched by an infected macaque monkey, or have contact with their eyes, nose, or mouth. So, my apologies. I was wrong. It was not their butt, it was their eyes, nose, mouth, or scratching or
But who
biting.
can blame you, Mike? After the show we've had today, who can blame you for thinking it
Yeah,
would have been the
I
ass?
it seemed like it was a theme, but
You
also
know,
just everyone knows it's very rare. But it can, you wanna get treatment immediately, or you could lead to severe
yeah.
brain damage or death.
Don't be kissing any monkey's ass. Um,
So
man
if you're gonna
hospitalized.
kiss the ass, just not the mouth. Yeah.
Yes. And if you do kiss him in the mouth, kiss him on the ass real quick. Maybe it'll like
Yes.
counteract it. A man hospitalized after giving himself a nose job, prompting YouTube to remove a video of the rhinoplasty video. Um, First of all, anybody who thinks they can do surgery on themselves, um, you were talking about taxes earlier. If you're going to do something by yourself, try to do your taxes first. If you could do your taxes, that's somewhat of an education level that would make get you to the point of becoming a surgeon. Um, but the guy screwed himself up. Like, who's thinking like, okay, this is what I do. They don't think the minute I carve into my nose that my pain's gonna cause all. I mean, like these Fix-A-Flat, the women in Florida that go to these behind a gas station and they get Fix-A-Flat put in their ass so they can have bigger asses. Um,
Mm.
you know,
I
but
mean, yeah, definitely for medical treatment, I recommend having someone else do it.
first.
I'm on the same page as you. Yeah, there is. I'm reminded of this story from Buddhism that I like a lot, that I doubt has any applicability here, but I'm going to share it because it might have applicability elsewhere. But there was a story of a monk who removed his own tooth. He had a sore, he had, a tooth that needed to come out, and he used pliers and took it out. And somebody else asked him, they said, "Didn't that hurt a lot?" And he said, well, it didn't hurt when I thought about doing it. And it didn't hurt when I walked to the shed. And it didn't hurt when I picked up the wrench. And it didn't hurt when I grasped the tooth with the wrench. When I pulled it out, it did hurt right then. But then afterwards, it didn't hurt that much either. So that's sort of like a lesson in mindfulness, but please don't apply that to a do-it-yourself rhinoplasty.
Yes. Don't like take your time to do it. Don't walk to the shed. If you just add more
Right.
elements to it, you would be much better off with the total outcome. Yeah, you're right. Everybody should have health insurance nowadays. And if you want to listen, a nose job isn't like a life, like it's an elective surgery at best. It's an elective surgery, and elect to do it with somebody else. Like Mike says, first of all, somebody else. You know,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Don't
preferably a
elect
doctor.
yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, preferably a doctor, but paramed or something like that, or just somebody who's a
At
notary.
least a friend. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, that's all we have time for in the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I want to thank Mike Kaplan for joining us today. We always love having him on the show, and he's a phenomenal comic. Mike, what's coming up? Where can people find you?
Thank you for asking. Mike Kaplan, spelled the weird way that I spell it, at MyQKaplan. If you put that in to all your social media, that's my website. I have a newsletter that I send out for free each week, or you can subscribe for more at mikekaplan.substack.com. My latest album is called AKA. All my albums are recently back on Spotify. They were gone for a while, and I'm thrilled that they're back. So you can listen anywhere that you get your streaming and or downloadable comedy content. And later this year, I'll have a dry bar special coming out. So keep
Awesome.
your eyes open for that. Your ears open, really, both. It'll be, you can look and listen. And but yeah, put Mike Kaplan where Mike Kaplan goes, and you'll be able to find Mike Kaplan. Thanks for having me, as always.
There you go. Our pleasure. Keep your ears open, but everything else shut. If you haven't learned anything from today's show,
Close the
up all the
nose.
other
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks so much thank you so much for joining us, Mike. Awesome as usual. And that's it for another episode of the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I intend on being back next week. Waiting to line a few guests, see what happens. But until then, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the Wake Up Late with Dougie show, and on Twitter at Wake Up Dougie, and of course our fan page on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show on Facebook. That's where you watch us. And we do need you to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. We doubled up. We actually got a nice increase after a long time. So we're really going to start pushing the show to the YouTube channel and making some other changes coming up in the new year. Be excited to have you all join us. Aside from that, God bless everybody. Stay well. Be good to other people. Like Mike said, worry about yourself, take care of yourself, and help others when needed. God bless. See you here next time at the same spot.
Wake up. Wake up.